Hi guys, so this week we are going to be doing a project that's inspired by the beautiful Kente cloth from Ghana. And hopefully you've taken a look at our slides and you've seen where this originated, maybe a little bit about how they make this cloth, what it represents to them currently. And then the most important slide that I was looking at when I was getting ready to make my project for this was slide number 3. Talks about all of the different colors that they traditionally use in this kente cloth and what those colors represent to the people of Ghana. They have a connection to these colors. These colors have a message that they're trying to send by wearing this cloth. So I took a look at those color selections and I picked out 4 colors for my artwork today that meant something to me. And if you want to write these meanings on the back of each piece of paper so that at the end of your project you remember what these colors mean to you, that would be kind of special. So the first color that I chose was blue, which they said represents love, fortune, peacefulness, harmony. Love that. I also chose green, which represents plants and harvesting, growth, good health, new life. For this project, I used colored paper and I used black marker. Now, if you have paint at home, I would recommend painting these pieces of paper. They end up looking absolutely beautiful, but I know that not everyone has paint at home, so I wanted to show you some alternatives if you don't happen to have paint. So you'll want to start out with 2 pieces of paper, and these can either be colored pieces of paper, they can be white paper that you're going to go in and paint. If you wanted some colored paper but you don't have construction paper at home, you could go in and color a white piece of paper and then do your designs on top of that. For today, I've used colored paper and black marker to do my designs. Now you'll want to kind of switch up the direction that your patterns are going. So you can see that I filled my entire paper with pattern. I did that for all 4 colors that I'm using. And this is going to be the base of my weaving. It's what we're weaving through. And when we're using paper to weave, this is both our loom, the structure on which we're weaving, and it is our warp, which is what we're weaving through. So loom and warp all in one. And then we're going to be using strips as our weft to weave through. Okay, so the second thing I did was I got some pieces of paper in red, blue, and yellow, and I did some patterns on there as well. Remember, a pattern can be anything that repeats itself over and over, so try to be creative with what patterns you're choosing. I also switched up the directions that my patterns were facing so that they would look sort of interesting as I went through the weaving process. So this is my background, this is my loom, this is my warp. I am going to fold it in half long ways. So I'm not folding it in half like this, like hamburger style. I'm gonna fold it in half hot dog style, okay? So again, I've drawn or painted my designs first, and then I'm gonna fold this paper long ways, landscape. Then I'm going to take a pair of scissors and using our best safety, so we're cutting away from our body. We're only using one hand to cut. We're not cutting like this. That's not safe. And we're keeping our hands as far away from our scissors as possible. You will start cutting as many slits as you want to include. Now, I wouldn't do like 100 little cuts on your paper because then you're going to have a lot of work to do with weaving. I would make them about an inch and a half wide. If you want to get a ruler and measure that for yourself, you absolutely can. So you'll notice that I'm cutting, but I'm not cutting all the way through. I'm cutting just up to the edge, and I started cutting on my folded side of my paper. So not my open side that I can open over here, but my folded side is where I'm starting my cut, and then I'm stopping it before I get to my open edge of my paper. So I'm going to go all the way down the length of my paper making these little cuts. And these are going to be what we weave through. And they don't have to be perfectly spaced apart. You can see that Mrs. Turner is not measuring mine. I'm just kind of guesstimating how far apart these need to be. And then I'm going to open up my paper that I've now cut my slits into, and I'm ready to weave. So I'm gonna turn it this way, again, landscape style. And the strips of paper that I cut from my other piece of paper, I also cut them long ways as well, right? So be sure that if you're painting 2 pieces of paper, you're designing patterns on 2 pieces of paper, that if you're cutting your lines going this way, that your strips of paper are being cut horizontal too and not vertical. So we don't want to try to be weaving through here with a strip that's this big, right? Then it's going to end in the middle of your paper and look kind of funny. So pay attention to which direction you're cutting each strip of paper. So I'm going to start with my blue. I'm going to start up here at the top on the very edge, and I'm going to go under. Then I'm going to go over my next strip. Then I'm going to go under again, over my next strip, under, over my next strip, under, and then over my next and last strip. And then I'm going to take my strip of paper and I'm going to slide it all the way to the top until it stops so that it's nice and tight, okay? So all I did was go over, under, or under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, okay? Now on the next strip, I'm gonna choose a different color. You can see the patterns poking through, starting to represent something like that kente cloth. So with this next strip, I'm gonna start opposite from how I started the first one. So it's flip-flopped as I do this project. So I started my first one going under. So I'm gonna start my second one going over that first strip, and then under, and then over, and then under, and then over, and then under, over, under, over. And then I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna slide this strip all the way to the top until it meets the other one. And then I'm ready to just keep going with my pattern. So again, I started under, the next strip I went over, now I'm back to under again. So I'm gonna take my yellow strip and I'm gonna start out going under, and then let's complete our weaving. All right, so that last strip is my trickiest strip. As you see, I was working really hard to lift up these pieces because they don't have that much room left to weave. So that's going to be your trickiest one. Now, when I'm done filling up all of the space that I have for my weaving, like I don't have space for this last strip, and that's okay. Now what I want to do is I want to go around and I want to glue all these loose edges down so that my weaving doesn't come undone. And whether you guys do this with painted patterns or drawn patterns, remember to start out your design on 2 different pieces of paper and then cut those up. If you're using colored construction paper like I did, of course you can use more than one color for your strips if you would like to. But now I'm going around and I'm gluing down with just a little dot of glue all these loose edges on the front. And then I have some loose edges to take care of on the back as well. Even the back of my paper looks really cool, but you can see that on the front, the mix of those patterns makes it look really interesting. So we can't wait to see how you guys personalize these weavings this week, what colors you choose and how you choose to represent their meanings in your artwork, and then all the different patterns that you can use in your art. We hope you have so much fun with our weaving project this week, and we can't wait to see what you make. Bye.